All right, all right, all right. Greetings. Good day. Assalamu alaikum to both of you.
Assalamu
Wa
alaikum, brother.
alaikum assalam.
Salam.
All right. So we have my good friend Lemuel Burns
Um,
and a good friend that he has discovered down there in Georgia named Naji. Can you give us your full name, please?
yeah, so I'm in the midst of a name change, man. So that's kind of where it's at. Naji, and the last name is Baldwin Ali. So that's where we're at.
Okay. Okay, that works for me.
The process.
But
I'm
if you
glad you was able to take this time out for us, man. And drop some of those jewels. Naji got some questions, and I'm
yeah.
interested in
All
the
right. So
answers.
so today's topic is going to be around Sufi. What Sufi is, Sufism, is that the idea, or whatever you want to ask is fine with me. So just
Yeah, yeah. So Sufism, yes, is the main question.
yeah.
Let's there.
Okay, so let me ask you this: what initially got you interested?
Originally, so I started with the Moore Science Temple.
Okay.
Um, that's kind of where it started, and then kind of what got me into Islam. I was interested in that,
Hmm.
and then I ended up moving towards. I had a conversation with a brother who was an imam, and it was on a weekend. I do volunteer weekends for men,
Mm.
and we had some conversations about Islam, and it sounded like it really piqued my interest.
Okay. And
And
how long ago was that journey? Did
that's
you
probably
start?
been like it started with the Moore Science Temple like 8 years ago.
Okay.
If I wasn't involved the entire time, I'd get some information, then I'd kind of, start doing research, and then I'd go do something else. So I was into Buddhism too. So it's kind
Hmm.
of been like these different things. And then the conversation with this brother was like 6 months ago,
Hmm.
and it was almost like a return to something that I had been longing for.
Okay.
Yeah. And then
I understand.
thank you. Yeah. And then so then I what happened one day? Oh, I reconnected with another friend of mine, and he invited me to the masjid in Midtown to sit with him in prayer. To go,
Hmm.
and it was like I belonged there. It felt
Hmm.
really natural for me. And but there he was sharing with me when I was there some of the traditions and the laws and the way things are,
Hmm.
and I had an aversion to that, some of that, just based upon my own religious background.
Hmm.
And he was like, "Well, if you're interested, there's an esoteric side to it called Sufism."
Hmm.
And I was like, "Man, I've heard of Sufism. Like I've heard over the years Sufism,
Yeah.
because I had got very into some Gnostic texts and stuff like that." And I found out that there were these esoteric sides of these different belief systems, like Judaism and things like that.
Hmm.
And Sufism was always one that was like, I even, I knew Rumi was Sufi too, and I
Yeah.
love I
Yeah.
love Rumi's work, love his
Yeah.
work.
Hmm.
I'm always quoting something from Rumi,
Yes.
and other people do too. They
Oh,
don't know
many
it's
other
they don't
people. Yeah,
yeah
they don't
they
know the
don't know it's
source of it.
Rumi.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Hmm.
And so I've always been more of an esoteric brother anyway. I have a background in some energy medicine, some indigenous culture type stuff, Native
Hmm.
American type things, um, some Lakota traditions, some um, South American traditions. And
Yeah.
so when he's talking about Sufism, I was like, "Ooh, that sounds like where I'm supposed to be." So he
Hmm.
invited me to a zikr that his wife sits in on,
Hmm.
and I did it online, and man, some of the I don't just the chanting,
Mm.
it really did something. It impacted
Mm.
me, it
Yeah.
impacted me. And so I was like, I think this is where I need to start, you know. I think this is where I need to start to get to see the underlying energy of Islam.
Yeah.
And then if I want to really be involved with the traditional, I think it's sunnah. Um is that what it's called?
That's what they call it. Yes. Hmm.
Okay. If I want to be involved with that, then I'll transition to that. But I'm really curious about Sufism because it's really in alignment with where I've been and who I am.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So I'm going to say some things to you that are going to be maybe not directly related to Sufi as a practice or as a belief system, but it's going to be indirectly related to what the purpose of Sufi actually is.
Okay.
So let's start by saying that the idea of Sufism predates the introduction of the Quran into the world. So a lot of people hear the term Sufi and they say, well, that's another school of thought in Islam. When in fact, this practice has been in existence for many hundreds of years prior to Muhammad the Prophet and prior to the Quran being introduced to the world, into the world. Pardon me, I have a bit of a scratchy throat from talking so much.
That's okay.
um, but Islam actually just adopted a particular ancient system, and that's not unusual for religions to do. Islam has adopted several, let's, for all intents and purposes, call them schools of thought. When the Muslims invaded ancient Persia, for instance, they then adopted many of the practices, the norms, and even the language and meanings of words from the ancient Zoroastrians, who were ancient Persians, who today would be known as Iranians. Where all the conflict is starting to stir up right now over there,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Yeah, so these are people who have a history going back that far. Now, I mentioned to you on the phone that Sufism or Sufi, I do something called nunetics. If you see that sign behind me, it's
Yeah, yeah.
called nunetics. All right. And nunetics is simply the evaluation of letters in any alphabet system. But I deal particularly with Arabic, English, and Hebrew,
Okay.
which are the language of the major scriptures on earth as we speak. So there's a system that I employ called consonantal connections, and it's just the connecting of words that have consonants that sound alike. So for instance, I told you on the phone that Sufi is what gave us the English word soft. Okay, so what's being connected? The S and the F as consonants. The vowels don't matter. So
Okay.
wherever you're going to find an F, wherever you're going to find an S and an F in any word on earth, I challenge people like that. I say, bring me any word on earth that has S, F in it, and I'm going to show you a consonantal connection in the meanings, the underlying meanings, not necessarily the dictionary meanings, but all of these words have underlying meanings. All right. So now here's the perfect proof that the word Sufism or Sufi is from an Arabic word that means wool, W-O-O-L. So that's enough proof for the average thinking person, right? Wool is soft, but it also is a reference to the disposition of the person being soft. You know, there's some people who we call hard. Yo, why you coming at me so hard, yo? Right?
Yeah.
And then there's other people we say, man, dude, man, don't depend on him for no protection, man. That dude is soft, you know. So we take these words and we give disparaging kinds of connotations to them when it doesn't necessarily mean soft in terms of being a pushover. The softness of the wool was actually a reference to that which was a protection for the sheep. The wool serves as a protection for the sheep. All right. We have sayings, of course, in languages that say, you know, he was pulling the wool over, you know, how did they call it? Pulling the wool over
your eyes.
yeah, pulling the wool over your eyes or something like that, right? Yeah. And we got 1,001 expressions like that, but they're not necessarily referring to what I call the natural or the native meaning for the word. The native meaning for any word is going to be found in nature, not in man's worlds and concepts. It's going to be found in nature. So you have to look for how wool operates in nature, not in a department store where it's been sheared off the back of the sheeple people. So it's not the sheeple people that Sufi is referring to. It's the actual sheep and the lamb that comes with nature as a gift from nature. We say gift from Allah through nature. All right. So Sufi in Islam was actually a rebellion. It was a rebellion movement against the increase on the part of Muslims in terms of their attention to materialism. The Quran never teaches about material things in a way to make you crave the material world to no ends. The Quran says, وَابْتَغِي فِي مَا أَتَاكَ اللَّهُ الدَّارُ الْآخِرَةَ وَلَا تَنْسَ نَصِيبَكَ مِنَ الدُّنْيَا. That's Arabic, obviously. And it says, it's telling the people who accept this way of life that they should seek with all that they have been availed their home in the hereafter. So that's a spiritual idea. So we're supposed to be seeking a spiritual destiny, our home in the hereafter. But then it says also, but do not forget or do not neglect your share of the material world. So the Quran is presenting a balance between the spiritual aspirations and the material aspirations. So even in terms of Sufi, with its leanings toward the spiritual side, it's still not representative of the true balance that the Quran is teaching about. The Quran is not teaching you to be an ascetic, and that's what Sufism is. It's asceticism. I don't know if you're familiar with that term.
I am, yeah.
Okay, so for people who might be listening to this, asceticism is simply the belief in divorcing yourself from the material world and the psychology of the world, the material possessions of the world, and living your life as close to a spiritual existence as you possibly can. Now, in all actuality, that is absolutely impossible because you are given a material body. So no matter how much you say you're going to be spiritual, you still have to take care of your material needs. You got to eat, you got to drink, you got to sleep, you got to do all of these things. You have to exercise. All of those things are material, parts of the material existence. So you cannot completely divorce yourself from material existence. The other thing is that the mistake that has been made in many of these ideologies, including Catholicism, which is kind of Christianity's Sufism, at least it began like that. That's why they have so many monks. Wherever you see monks, you're going to see this Sufism and this divorcing yourself away from material things as possible. Now, in the Catholic Church, it was introduced because there were people in ruling positions who wanted to divorce the majority of the people from having these desires for material things so that they could take their material things and give them to the Catholic Church. Now, that didn't happen for the Sufis, but it happened for the Catholics. Bring us, these are the devils. This is the devil stuff here. Your money. Oh, you don't need the money. Gold. Oh, bring that over here. Let us take that sin off of your backs. And that made the Catholic Church rich. The Catholic Church went into countries. They went into Africa, especially, and they started raping those people up for their wealth, their gold and their silver and all of that stuff. Right. But they tell the people it's not for you particularly. Just bring it to us and we know what to do with it. We'll take care of it and you just be with Jesus, So I say all of that a bit facetiously because we need to understand what I call the underpinnings of these belief systems. They sound good on the surface. Even what we're taught about Islam, it sounds good on the surface, but when you begin to dig beneath the layers of additional stuff that men have put on it, not that Allah has put on it, not that the Quran has put on it. Men come along and they start to add stuff from their thoughts and from their scholarship. And that's what it turns out in our day and time in terms of Islam to be called hadith. You've heard of that. They call them the sayings of Muhammad the Prophet, but on the most part, they are not. They are fabrications coming from men's minds who have tagged Muhammad's name onto it so that you would accept it because you love Muhammad and you don't necessarily love them. All right. So I'm trying to give you a bit of a background, and I'm going to talk also about some symbolism since you are into the esoteric, and esoteric, for people who might not know that word, simply means like secret language. I'll make it simple for people, and I'll just say secret language as opposed to language that is understood by the average person in the public. That would be exoteric, right? So you know just from that, that the prefix EX in exoteric means that which exits or comes out or is made obvious, outwardly obvious, exoteric. That means you can pick that book up and begin reading and say, oh, I understand this. But if you are not educated by certain people in that religion or in that school of thought in terms of their secret meanings, then you won't be able to pick up esoteric doctrine like Sufism and be able to walk your way through it by yourself. You'd have to have somebody, a priest or somebody high up in the order to be able to explain that to you, like the Masons and the Shriners type thing. That's esoteric information, right? So it also tells you, if you're studying letters like we do in Nunetics, that the difference between, I'll ask you this, the difference between esoteric and exoteric is what? What letter is different?
S.
Exactly. And the other word, what's the word that's being exchanged? The letter, pardon me.
The other word?
In the other, yeah, esoteric is the S. Exoteric is what letter?
The X.
Exactly. So so that tells you, without you having to go to a scholar, that the letter S means secret. And that the letter X means open. See? If I come at you like this, if you saw me standing up and I had my legs spread open and I had my arms like this, I'm putting my body in the form of an X, but this is what the police ask you to do. And they say, hands up. They want you, right? They want to know everything about you, whether you're carrying something or whatever. So they're asking you to crucify yourself. In other words, they're asking you to form the position that Jesus is on the cross, except that his legs are closed together. All of that is esoteric. The arms being stretched out, but the legs being clamped together. So in other words, he's not an X, he's a Y. Now, for those people who study genetics, that should mean something to them.
XYG's chromosome.
All right. Yeah, that should mean something to them. Now, oh man, there's so much to cover, and I'm not going to keep you all day with this, but I just want you to be able to listen back to it and do your research.
Thank you.
Now, so this Sufi idea is actually addressing the human nature. The way that Allah created all of us to be, behaviorally speaking. It has really very little to do with how we are mentally speaking, because you can be very aggressive in terms of what you know and what you teach, but it's talking about how you behave. And we are to, according to the Quran, especially in the presence of each other, like we are now, Allah says, be aggressive against Satan, but be as soft as milk towards each other. That's in the Quran. Be as soft as, he didn't even say water. He chose a softer substance, milk. Right? All right. So we're supposed to be suf. In the Quran, there are two hills or mountains, sometimes they call them, called the Safa and Marwa. Again, it might not mean anything to you right now, but Safa and Marwa. Safa and Marwa. And it's also talking to two different aspects of human nature. Most Muslims don't know that. So I'm sharing something with you to give you the jump on most Muslims who have been studying Islam for 100 years now. All right. Yeah. So it's speaking to the same thing. It's speaking to aspects of the human nature that are intended to balance themselves. Okay. So you know what it means to be soft. The Quran opens up with Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. We say with Allah's name. They say the merciful, the compassionate. That's how they translate that, right? So it's dealing with a root word there. Rahman and Rahim are from the word Raham, which means womb, W-O-M-B. And it's talking about the compassionate way in which the embryo grows into the fetus and eventually is delivered from the womb of the mother. Although it's a very violent scenario, if you can imagine being encased in a sack, in an embryonic fluid, and just being cramped up like that, that's torture for a human of our understanding, right? For somebody to lock you in a cage for 9 months, and you just growing like, just incrementally, and then a heart has to develop, a skeletal structure has to develop, all of these 10 or 12 systems in the human body have to develop, and you're cramped in there, and you never had dinner yet, you only have this fluid being fed to you through your navel button, through your navel cord. Man, that's, when you think about it logically, that's torture. There ain't no mercy. But when you think about it as the baby exits the womb and has his lungs activated, and then immediately begins to be affected by the compassion of the doctors, the compassion of the mother, if the baby's put into the mother's arms, that's a very compassionate thing. And it seems as though its memory is totally erased of what it just went through for the last 9 months. When the baby comes here crying, he's not crying because of what he went through in the womb. He's forgotten all of that, seemingly. There's no memory of that. That's the compassion we're talking about in the word raham, or womb, or rahman, mercy, compassion, right? You can jump in at any time if you have a question in between, because I can talk. You might have heard about me.
Yeah, you got to talk for hours.
Yeah, Lenny, I've known Lenny since I was about 13 years old, and we used to talk in the hallways and the staircases of our buildings, and we would talk literally for hours, literally 4 and 5 and 6, maybe a whole day's worth of just back and forth. And Lenny would always end the conversation with, "But there's just one more thing I need to ask you."
I knew you was gonna say that.
Yeah, that's what makes him the brilliant man he is now, because he was smart enough to ask questions. Yeah. And sometimes I had to say, "I gotta go check that one out. I gotta study that. You caught me off guard with that one, Len." So I appreciate him as my friend. We're cousins of sorts. We grew up just like the closest of brothers and sisters. A matter of fact, he may have been or is closer to me that I know certainly than some of my other cousins, who I barely know some of them, but I know him very well, and he knows me and my family very well. So I'm thankful to have met him, if not for any other reason, for that reason. Yeah, he's a special man on this planet, the man you got in that cubicle right there.
That's a fact.
Thank you, bro. Yeah,
and I'm honored. I'm honored to sit between you two right now.
Say it again?
I'm honored to sit in the room with you two right now.
Well, we're honored to sit with you. Allah says in the Quran that he has made honorable all of the sons of Adam, the children of Adam, actually, not the sons, daughters, whoever. He has made all of us honorable. That's a beautiful thing, isn't it?
It is. I received that.
Hey, Chris, if you have any questions, like, I ask right now, just, any curiosities, this is a good time to.
Well, there's one more thing I want to say about the Sufi before I go on to the rest of your questions.
Yeah.
People have been mistaking the word spiritual for something that it should not be seen as. They think spiritual means like ghostly, like, oh, you think about the spirits, spirit. But spirit simply means influence. See, you got to take everything back to nature. Spirit would be equated with the air. If we think about the 4 basic elements, you know what they are?
Yeah.
Can you give me those?
Air, water, fire, and earth, right?
Exactly. Exactly. So always remember that. That's the combination that you need to make your way through any body of knowledge. Because what you just gave me were the 4 key components to what the world is composed of. Right? And speaking of esoteric knowledge, the hidden part of those 4 is that air represents spirit, fire represents intellect, water represents emotions, and the earth or the land represent your material composition. There's nothing outside of that. So if spirit is air, air is invisible, but air has a particular influence on the things in its environment. And you can't see the air per se, but you can see the effects of the air. So that's what's meant by spirit. It doesn't mean spooky. It just means that there are some invisible forces or invisible influences that can affect things outside of your vision's ability to comprehend them. Okay. So even the things that are happening to you emotionally are actually happening to you spiritually at the same time. Because what is air? When water evaporates, where does it go? It becomes air. It becomes air. It's the same composition. It just changes. Yeah, it just changes the balance of the chemicals, right?
Right.
So it's the same thing with emotions and spirituality. Everybody begins emotionally, like that baby coming out of the womb with that cry that we spoke about as soon as it comes out, right? That's emotional. But every human being has to go on to develop a spiritual nature when they start asking questions that are related to things that are more esoteric. You know, the child at first will begin asking physical questions about physical things in its physical environment. But there's going to come a time in the age of that child, like Lenny, when that child is going to say, I have one more question for you. It ain't going to be physical, you know. How does Allah do this? Who are the angels?
That's where you start thinking.
Yeah. So that's the water, the emotions being converted into spiritual thoughts or spiritual ideas. All of that is coming from an emotional need in you. So don't separate the water from the air. They're actually the same thing. The air is just a higher manifestation of your emotions. Make sense?
It does.
All right. So I hand the microphone over to you and you can ask whatever you need to ask.
Okay, thank you. So one that came up for me in that and what you were sharing is just talking about Allah, and then we have different gods and the different traditions, like Jehovah. They say different gods, but they have all different names, different expressions. What is the difference, if any? Like, I know that when I hear some of the expressions, when I hear the name Allah, it just has a different feeling to me than some of the other names. Is there a difference?
Yeah. Wherever you have different words, you're going to have different meanings and different connections, or what they call denotations and connotations. Denotations means the original meaning for a word. Connotations means the meaning of a word after it has been conned out of its original meaning. Get it? Connotation. Right? So in both of those words, you're looking at the word note, connote, denote. And what is a note? We speak of, a sound. That's right. Because all things are made of sound, vibration, right? Frequencies. So what you're doing is, if you're denoting a word, you're giving me the original frequency that it was intended to be understood in, the original frequency. If you're conning the note, then you're giving me your version of the frequency. Now I'm gonna give you a good example. Black Lives Matter. What is black? Oh, that's us, the people. Really? The African American? Yeah, we're black people. Really? Look in the mirror and then put something black up next to your face. Put your black shoe up there, your black sneaker, and tell me if that's the same. Why are most of us called black people when very few people here that are called African Americans or even that are called Africans are actually black in terms of the color black? They conned the note, the original note. Originally, you could not have been a black man. You couldn't have been. Not in terms of color. So black must mean something esoteric. You see how that goes?
Yeah.
It could not have been an exoteric meaning for black. All right. So that's what we mean by esoteric, exoteric, and denotation versus connotation. So what we want to fasten ourselves to are the denotations in language. So if I say I'm a black man, that's fine. If I say I'm an African American, what is an African? Africa, where did that name come from? That's a Greek word. So again, how did I become an African? And I'm on a continent that has nothing to do with Greece, except that they captured some of it and renamed the stuff. Is that making sense?
It does.
So
Yeah, and
I
I need
want to
to
know
say,
what I want. Yeah, go ahead, please.
so there's a some sort of interruption in the sound. That's
Yeah, I'm not sure who that's coming from. Let me try and figure that out. It's not, I know it's not coming from my end. So I'm gonna mute Lenny and just see if the sound disappears. Yeah, it disappeared. All right. So Len, you can still hear me. When you need to speak, just unmute your phone. Oh, hold on. Unmute your phone now, Len, so I can hear you. Yeah.
Okay, I'm on a computer, so it was a sound coming from my end.
Yeah.
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 Okay. All right. I'm a mute. I'm here. I hear you though. I hear both
Oh,
of
yeah.
you though.
Okay.
All right.
Mhm.
Thank
All
you,
right.
brother.
Yeah. Thanks for that. I was going to mention that. I wasn't sure where it was coming from.
Yeah.
Yeah. So go right ahead.
No, that was it. I just want to talk about that. I wanted to just get that sound right because I was having a hard time hearing you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. So, but the question about the names, what? So it's so basically what you're saying is that, if I'm understanding correctly, is the reason why um Allah hits me the way that it does is because that may be the original sound.
Yeah. It's the original note.
Uh,
It's the original note that that same baby we're talking about, right? When that baby starts to holler, we call it
yeah,
hollering, right?
right.
Well, the word holler is not that far away from the pronunciation of Allah. These are related words.
Oh man.
So when the baby begins to holler, it's because the oxygen intake into the lungs has begun. The baby's lungs are not breathing inside of the womb. When the baby
Right.
comes out, then the lungs become activated and the baby begins to holler. Right?
Yep.
All right. So that
It's almost
hollering, yeah, go ahead.
okay. No, it's almost like that even that cry is
Yeah, yeah,
it's almost natural to cry like that, or if you're in trouble, you're falling.
that's right. Yeah,
It's somewhat of a natural.
yeah. That's why the letter
Thing.
A leads all or most languages. The letter A, no matter what language you look at, it's the open A, open mouth sound, because life begins with an open mouth. No matter what the creature, a sheep could be born, he's got to open his mouth to say those sounds. But the human being particularly has to have an open mouth when he says ah or a or that kind of thing. So this particular sound, which is actually not a vowel, believe it or not, they tell you A, E, I, O, U are vowels. A is only a vowel if it's in the word. If it begins the word, it's a consonant.
Mm-hmm.
And we can go into that at some other point, but just understand that it's a consonant and not a vowel at the beginning of a word.
Yeah, makes sense.
Right. So the idea of connecting with your spiritual nature, and I can hear and feel the level of spiritualism that you're operating with and on. And it's a beautiful thing because, again, that's the nature of the human being. Once that baby stops hollering after it's born, it's the most peaceful creature on earth in its mother's arms, especially if it gets what it's looking for, that milk. right? Put that baby,
Yeah.
you latch that baby onto that tit. That's heaven. He's back in heaven again. Right? So yeah, so that's as peaceful an existence for a human being as you will ever get in this life. The combination of mother and child with both participants being satisfied, because the mother is getting satisfaction also from the baby pulling on her breast. People don't know her uterus is being pulled back into place. If she didn't breastfeed, it would take her months longer to have her uterus reconfigured to its original shape. But with the baby pulling on the breast, look at how God designed that, right? He designed it so that the more the baby breastfeeds, the quicker the mother's abdomen and all of those other things that had got stretched out of proportion and all that begin to just go right back into place. See, and she's getting a different kind of satisfaction. If she tells you the truth about it, she's getting a different kind of satisfaction from the breastfeeding. Although the baby will start biting on the nipple and all those disturbing things, but still, there's a more of a psychological and a neurological relationship between the mother and the child that most doctors can't even explain. Science can't explain it. The mother can't explain it. She can only say, "Give me my baby. I need to feed my baby," right? And she'll go to sleep sometimes letting that baby feed on her. So it's a reciprocal relationship, although they're getting two different things from each other. Right? Yeah.
Right.
So the that softness in terms of their relationship is what Sufi also is. Wherever you find softness in the nature, when you greet people you don't know, when you go out to feed the homeless, when you give people good advice, like what I'm doing right here is Sufi. I'm being very soft with how I'm introducing information to you. I had to ask you what you already know, what you studied, what you're looking to know, so I don't overburden you with anything. That's Sufi, but it's a part of the human nature, is my point. So whenever you greet someone with that kind of respect for their intelligence and respect for who they are and what they bring to the table, that's a part of the umbrella now that I'm calling Sufi. Now, Sufi won't tell you that because they don't know to tell you that. But again, I'm studying all knowledge from the vantage point of nature. So you have to study the softness in nature. Sometimes it'll rain and it'll thunderclap and it'll do lightning bolts and all of that. But what does it go back to? Peace.
Yeah.
Sometimes a star will fall out of the system, but what's regulating most of the system? The proper arrangement of the stars and the planets revolving, swimming, as the Quran says, swimming in their orbits.
Yeah.
That's peaceful, you know?
It is.
Right? So the entire creation reflects this Sufism concept. I don't want to say Sufism. I don't like the ism on the end of that. So I just say the Sufi concept, the softness, you know. And that English word soft, the only difference between suf and soft is the letter T, correct? As a consonant.
Right.
Yeah. So T is a feminine letter. So when
Got
you
a question, Ben.
yeah.
Why not the ism?
Because ism is a suffix that has been slapped onto the ends of English words that represent man's thoughts about it. Confucianism, Judaism. You notice there's no Islamism because they know those are not man's thoughts. But you have ism in the political world. You have it in the religious world. Ism. Now we're going to go into a little bit of the esoteric meaning for ism, right?
Yeah.
Ism actually comes from the Arabic language. We open up the Quran and it says Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, as I mentioned earlier. And this word Bismi is a combination of two words. The word bi, which means with or in, and ism. Bi ism, Bismi, bi ism. and ism means name or label. So we're saying that we begin with the label provided for us by Allah. Allah provides the labels. He taught Adam the names of all things, the isms of all things. So isms begin in nature, but then they are turned into connotations by man. So just like you're in an attempt right now to find your true self in changing your name from whatever it was in English to Naji, whatever you want it to be in some other language, because you believe that that's more of a reflection of your true self or your true suf. You get it? They only added an L to disguise it, you know.
Yeah,
Right?
correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So everybody's trying to get back to their true or to their original self. This is what
Okay.
Elijah Muhammad's movement was all about. Returning the so-called black man to his true self. But there were so many facets of his language that were left to be explained that most people in his organization to this day are unaware of the depths of understanding connected to Elijah Muhammad's esotericism. And he would tell his followers all of the time, when they thought they had the answer to some of the questions that he had in what he called his problem books. That was a part of the overall study. It's called the lessons and the problem books, because he would present questions and then his followers would say, man, I've been studying this for 10 years now. I think I have the answer. And they would go to Elijah Muhammad and they say, is the answer such and such and so and so? He might say, very close, brother, but you need to go back and study it some more. He said that there's so much beneath the surface of that language. He'd tell you that. So when he told us the black man was God, was he teaching on the surface, or was there something beneath that that we hadn't yet achieved? So when his son, Wallace D. Muhammad, became leader of the Nation of Islam in 1975, he began to open us up to those deeper meanings for his father and his father's teacher's language. You see what I'm saying? His father's teacher was from India, a man named, they called him Master Farad Muhammad. And just as anything that you pick from the Nation of Islam's knowledge book, I can show you how it was not what it seemed to be on the surface. They called him Farad. If I were to ask you to spell that and you didn't know how they spell it, you probably say F-A-R-A-D or F-A-R-R-A-D, Farad, you know, right? But he spelled it F-A-R-D, Fard. Now, why would he spell it Fard and then tell us to pronounce it as Farad? It's esotericism.
It's a meaning behind it.
Yeah. Why would he say the black man is the original man? Then that means that the people of Africa, on the most part, are the original gods. We're just like a knockoff brand because we got miscegenated in America. We got so many blood lines flowing through us now. You know, you got people among us who look like Caucasians and Mexicans. You know, we got people among us. You, until they talk, you won't know that they are you.
Yeah.
So how is that the black man? Is that the black man? Is he the skin man that we think he's talking? He's not talking about the skin. He's talking about nature. Black is a code word for nature. White is a code word for those who have been educated out of nature. Yeah. Black has to do with your original nature. In the Quran, it's called al-fitra, the original patterns and what those patterns suggest to the mind when you start to study them. The people of the Amazon, that's what I'm talking about. Those people and how they survived, the Native Americans that we always talking about here in this country, how they survived, what they needed to know about the nature and danger out there in the forest and all of that, right? That's black mind. The black man means mind. So black man means black mind. The mind that is unaware of a lot of external surface circumstances and situations. It's only aware of what's going on with its tribe. You see what I'm saying? That's how all human beings start. Whether they, whether they're in Europe or whether they're in Africa or whether they're in Asia, all human minds begin in a family circle that stretches out a little bit to become a tribal circle. And it's that family tribal circle that represents the black mind in history. When the mind was black or blank, blank is the same as black.
Mm.
Now, when you start to learn things, you start to put together things for yourself, you start to develop leadership in your little circle, and they are out discovering other things that they're bringing back to the tribe and teaching to the tribe. Little pieces of technology, like how to make a fire with 2 pieces of wood, you know, that kind of, when you start to extend what it is you're learning in that tribe, and it becomes something that leads to the discovery of certain technologies, if I'm going to fast forward that effort, you start to meet other people who are not your direct people, because there are people on the other side of the mountain and people on the other side of the lake that you might fight with them when you first see them, because you're fighting over resources now. Who gets to the watering hole first? Who gets to the hunting ground, to the hunting grounds first? And you got to fight with these. And then you just get tired of fighting because your nature is SUFI. Your nature is not war.
Right.
The word black, just going back for a second, I've heard it to equate to lack, to be lacking or lack
Yeah.
of,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. Imam Muhammad introduced that one also. He said that it's an esoteric word. I like that you introduced that, Naji. It's an esoteric word. It's a secret society word, black, that when applied to people, it means be lack. The letter B, lack. Now, if you don't know what the letter B means, you're still in the dark. No pun intended.
Right. Yeah. Well, go ahead, man.
All right. B means several things, but B as a letter in both English and Arabic means testicles. That's why they call them balls. They keep the B in the language for their sons and grandsons so that they'll understand. See, if you take the English letter B, right, and you turn it so that those 2 semicircles are beneath the line, you draw the line, and then you do the 2 semicircles for the capital B, take it and turn it so that the line is on top and the 2 semicircles on the bottom. Those are your testicles. So if you're saying these are B lacking people, what are you saying? They're lacking testicles. And one of the favorite things of that oppressive so-called white man, especially in the South, was to castrate.
Yeah.
Castrate the people. So obviously there were some people in his circle who understood the meaning of it, but they never passed that knowledge down to the majority of those so-called white folks. It's the people who are ruling over those. There's always people behind the scenes, like the Wizard of Oz, the wizard and the Wizard of Oz. There's always people that they don't want to be seen. Just like the conflict now, so-called conflict. It's ethnic cleansing taking place right now between the people of Israel and the people of the Gaza, the Palestinians of the Gaza. They don't want you to know that there's a master manipulator over both of them that are pulling the strings like puppets. And they're making plenty money off of having one fight the other. This is historical. This goes all the way back to Cain and Abel. Yeah, right. So these things are not new, but when we allow mass media to interpret these things for us, to give us their connotative meanings for these events, see, then we're falling into the deception of people who are putting human beings at war with each other, literally at war with each other for financial and political power and benefits.
Right.
So when all is said and done, there's going to be casualties, massive casualties on both sides. And there's going to be somebody who's been working the strings behind the scenes who are going to walk away as the true benefactors of the power. And you'll still not know their names. Right. I'm about to talk about those people in another week or so in a webinar.
I'm going to hear that for sure. Yeah. Thank you. So I just want to, there's 2 things I wanted to address while we're having this conversation that I'm really curious about. I appreciate that breakdown too. I'm going to have to spend some time with that. It's probably why I had an aversion to this black word around, black and man for so long.
Yeah.
Once again, because I feel I have this feeling about these things. That's what I've had for so long.
Yeah.
And so that's a new one for me. I'm definitely going to keep that. I need to also look into it further. But so the one that I want to talk about, I want to go back because we were talking about the womb, and then you were talking about the mother and the child. You also mentioned God and how He set that up. I was wondering if you could speak to how the Muslim tradition, or just from your own knowledge around this too, from what is the belief around the masculine and feminine, I guess, essence of Allah or God,
Yeah,
like
that's a
how
great
that
question.
Okay.
That's a question that only a scholar could ask. I salute you for that one, man. My 30-something years of teaching, anybody never asked me nothing like that. Yeah.
Well,
All right.
there you go.
So here we go. You ready?
Okay. Yes.
All right. You were mentioning Allah earlier in terms of the difference between the sound of that word and the sound of other words that people use for God. Jehovah or Yahweh, Elohim in these biblical terms, Hebrew terms. They're terms out of more ancient civilizations, ancient Sumerians, Babylonians. They had the word El, just E-L. Right? We have Allah, which is more than just E-L, but it includes kind of that sound, Allah, 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 right? Elohim, plural. Now, going back to the way the Quran opens up with Bismillah, with Allah's name, Ar-Rahman, the merciful benefactor, the one who is providing everything and everybody with their benefits, whether they know him or not, acknowledge him or not, doesn't matter. Jesse James and Adolf Hitler still benefited from being here on earth through the food, the water, the company, right? The power. So Allah in that regard is the one who allowed them to benefit, even though they were bad people and wouldn't conform to what they knew to be their better nature. Because your better nature tells you just about every time you're ready to do some dirt to somebody, or even to yourself, you're about to smoke that cigarette, your better nature says, this eventually can kill me if I keep sucking on the end of this cigarette, right? Or if you're about to go steal something from somebody, your nervous system starts acting up. You have to look around to make sure nobody's looking at you. That's showing you that your nature is not to steal. It's not to do wrong. You're about to say something wrong to your mother because you just emotional about something she asked you to do or didn't ask you to do. She wants you to clean your room before you go to school and all that. And you want to go out and play with your friends. So you're getting ready to backtalk your mother, but there's a little subtle voice in the back of your head that says, you better not talk back to you. Remember the last time you spoke back to your mother and you walked away with swollen lips? Dude. So that's Allah speaking to you. He doesn't have to send you a memo. Your nature is the memo. He's communicating to you through your nervous system. So Allah is where we get the English word allow. One is A-L-L-A-H, the other is A-L-L-O-W. So what does that have to? It's also where we get the English word all, which means like everything, all of it, Allah. Now, what does that have to do with anything? Because Allah allows. When Allah uses the name Allah in the Quran, look at the things he's referencing in that verse. What he's doing is he's allowing you access, like your computer allows you access, but you're not supposed to be on it looking at pornography. See, he allows you. You got links for pornography. You got links for child abuse and what do they call that? Pedophilia and all of that. You can go to the internet and you're allowed, if you know the link, to go to any of those sites. But an allowance does not necessarily mean permission.
Yeah.
Got it? Yeah. what Allah does in him allowing us to do things, people always ask the question, if there's a God, why does he allow, hatred and racism and some people to be rich, some people to be dirt poor, and why is he allowing all this? That's not really Allah that's allowing that. It's man's treatment of each other that's allowing that. Allah gives you the full spectrum of opportunities to be whatever it is you choose to be, but then he puts something in your nature to let you know when that thing you're wanting for yourself is wrong for you. He puts it in your nature to know that. When man goes against that nature, that's when man gets in trouble, but he's still allowed to do it, because at every checkpoint, there are checkpoints in your nature that say, don't go that way. Don't do, just like you got some signs on the highway that say dead end. Now, if you allow yourself to keep going and you run into the bushes or off the cliff, you gonna blame Allah for that? He left you a sign. Wrong way. Two-way highway. Stay on the left side or the right side, right? If you say, if you say, I wonder what's on the other side, and you swerve over into the other thing, and a tractor trailer comes barging towards you, you can't blame Allah for that. If you know that the Empire State Building is 100 and something stories tall, and you go up there and you find an open window, and you say, well, God is merciful. If I jump, maybe he'll just let me learn. He'll let me land softly, because I've been a religious guy all my life. And I know God is merciful and Jesus will catch me. And, you start going through all of those mental madness moves. Go ahead and jump off a 100-story building and see what happened to you. Allah will allow it, but he puts something in your nature called consequences. Go ahead, Len.
No, I was just going to say innate is probably another word too for having that inner knowing.
Yeah, it's inner nature. It's your inner nature.
Innate inner nature.
Yeah, that's what innate is.
Mm-hmm.
See, there's two things operating in the creation. There's nature, which allows, and then there's nurture. That's the one that we're not taught about. There's nature operating all of the dynamics of creation. And then there's a nurture, meaning you're supposed to be taught how to regulate your life within the context of nature. So that's where your mother comes in. That's where your family comes in. That's where your tribal leaders come in. The people who know better than you because they've been here, they've done it, and they got the t-shirt to prove it. Those are the people you're supposed to come under when you're born out of nature. You're born out of your mother's nature, out of her womb, but you're born into nurture. That's why the first thing she does is nurture you. But what we're doing, we're allowing our children to just be a part of overall nature. Like, who was it? The Isley brothers, they said, it's your thing. Do what you want to do. I can't tell you who to sock it to. Now, you went and socked it to the wrong person and you end up with some strange disease because you're following nature. Islam doesn't encourage us to follow nature. Islam gives us the best balance between nature and nurture. Safe things in nature, safe foods, and then there's nurture, which tells you, okay, don't include this in the food. Take that out because that's going to harm you. And then the rest of it is palatable. The rest of it is digestible. So you got to have people who are teaching. See, so that's Allah as the one who allows, because in his allowing you these things, you're going to be learning life lessons along the way. When you bump your head and you say, I'm not going to do that again. And then you can tell your children, you don't have to bump your heads. I bumped my head for you, and I'm telling you it hurts. So humans are the only creatures that can learn from being taught what's correct. Other animals have to go through the experience, the same experience that their parents went through, to know that's bad. I'm not going to do that again. A mother cow can't teach a baby cow what the right move is to avoid the slaughterhouse. The baby cow has to be on the conveyor belt and realize it's moving without it moving its own legs, and it's going down the conveyor belt, and there's a hammer at the end of it, you know what I'm saying? Ready to knock it. The baby cow, he's nature, he's not nurture in that regard. Because when we talk about nurture now, we're talking about contributing to the mental aspects of the human being.
Mm.
Man means mind. So get all the black stuff out your head first. You can go back to it once you got your mind right. Once you got your mind right and you know what you are as an active mind in the world and how the mind works, how the brain works, most of us can't tell you what systems are being used to compose this brain. Most of us don't know what the cerebral cortex is. Most of us don't know what the limbic system is. Most of us don't know what the R complex is. We have no idea. And we've been carrying around this head since we've been born, before that, actually. But how many school rooms have taught you? How many teachers have taught you the dynamics of what your cerebral cortex is as a thinking brain, what your limbic system is as an emotional and memory brain, what your instinctive brain, the R complex, is as an instinctive brain in you that actually takes over to keep you living. So you don't have to think about breathing. You don't have to think about your heart beating. You don't have to think about your blood flowing through your system, because your instinctive brain, your reptilian brain, the R complex, that's what it's called, reptilian, because it's instinctive. It doesn't operate based on choices in the intellect. It operates based on what is most necessary for survival. So there are these three brains, and we don't realize that when they give us all of this mythology and all of these stories. Whenever you see three, you see how many threes are? The three little pigs.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying? They give you Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. They're speaking about your 7 levels of chakras. Not a one of those things is speaking about myth per se, meaning mysticism per se. They're speaking about those invisible influences we talked about earlier and how they're operating, not out there, but inside you. Inside you, Father, Son, Holy Ghost. That's happening inside of you, not out there in 2,000 years ago, La La Land. Father, Son, and Holy Ghost. That has nothing to do with Allah, the Creator. It has to do with something that's being called Father that's in you. That's why Jesus said, I in you, you in me, and the Father in me, and the Father in you. How the Father going to be in you if he's the Creator? Same Bible says.
Yeah.
It says that in the end time, right? I'm trying to recall it. In the end time, that the Father will be returned. How did that go? Yeah, I think it says God is going to return the Father to the children and the children to the Father. There's something to that effect in the last book of the Old Testament. And it says he will have to return the Father to the Son, to the children, and the children to the fathers, lest I smite the world with a curse. Now that's God speaking. He says he's going to return the Father to the children. That's what it is, to the children, and the children to the Father. So what Father is that? And if you'll notice the consonantal connections between the word Father and Fitra, you'll get it right away. In the end, the people, the children, meaning the innocent people, not the schemers of the world. When the Bible speaks about children, it's speaking about the innocent-minded people on earth. They have to be returned to the Father, to the Fitra, to nature, to natural processes, to insights into nature and how nature operates. See, they have to be returned to that. Look at right now, look at how far away they're trying to push us from the Fitra, from natural things. They're trying to tell you that not only that a woman and a man can be married to each other and then just adopt, children or whatever. They're telling you that no, now you female, you can actually be a man. And you man, we can clip off your dingaling, sew that flesh together, and you can be a woman. How far away from the Fitra can you get? So now an effort has to come into the world, which is in right now. That's being fulfilled right now, to return the innocent people back to the Fitra, back to their father, and the Fitra back to the innocent people. And if that doesn't happen, the Bible says that God will smite the earth with a curse. Now look at how many things are taking place on earth that have to do with earthquakes, tsunamis. You understand what I'm saying? Stuff is happening all over this planet that they are refusing to speak on because there's too much information in these events that are going. Saudi Arabia is underwater right now. Last I looked, it was experiencing hail this big. People were skiing with their feet, trying to make the Hajj around the Kaaba. They slipping and sliding and running into each other.
Yeah, I saw that.
There was an invasion of that too at Eka, of bugs. I think it wasn't locusts.
Yeah,
It was
yeah, it
more
was
like
locusts. It was
Yeah.
locusts.
it
I
was
believe you're right.
locusts.
Yeah,
Yeah, not long ago that happened.
that's right.
Yeah.
So what's that about? At God's house,
Right.
God's house. It's that foolish kind of stuff that they sold us as connotations. Now we have to return to the denotation, the original frequency.
And is that, let me ask you, is that that by way of, by people that, I mean, like yourself or others that are, you know, really speaking to it and bringing back the true nature? Or is that just by way, you know, by happenstance of time and you know, circumstances?
Yeah, the latter. It's by way of cosmic dynamics. We have to understand that we're living in a system that is being regulated by cosmic frequencies and cosmic dynamics, meaning that the time schedule that this universe is on is operating in cycles. That's why ancient people were smart enough to divide it into 12 sections we call now the zodiac. So when the cosmos itself goes through these different doors, if you will, as Jesus described them in the Bible, in my Father's mansion there are many, pardon me, in my Father's house there are many mansions. He called them mansions. See, when the Bible is talking about Moses and his 12 disciples, it's talking about these 12 signatures that we call the zodiac. 12 apostles. Apostle, post. See the word post and apostle? Because these signatures are posted at certain points in the galaxies, outside of the galaxies, and they are regulating the frequencies of the universe itself. So if you violate the particular frequency signature that the universe happens to be in for your planet, so forth, then the opposing frequencies that know that you're out of step now, you're out of time, the opposing frequencies are going to do everything they can to get you erased from the universe. That's what's happening now. See, they've been trying to strike the match of racism. You know, that's what Black Lives Matter was about. They wanted a race riot. But because they were striking the match too late for that season was the Pisces season that we are just recently transitioning out of into the Aquarian season, the water bearer. Now, people who don't know what I'm talking about, just bear with me. You can go study it on your own. I'm assuming, based on the big Kool-Aid smile on your face, that you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. So we have transitioned out of one season, cosmic season, into another. So when you try to pull off the events that were acclimated for the previous season, it's going to be a weak signal. Just like your computer, you get a weak signal, you just start spiraling. So everything you see happening in the world now, and to understand it better, understand that coming out of Pisces, which is the inverted fish, the two fish going in two separate directions, opposite directions. Anything philosophically speaking or religiously speaking that represents going in two opposite directions, like the Christians versus the Muslims, the Jews versus the Christians, the whites versus the blacks, the males versus the females, right? Sexism, chauvinism, racism, all of those things got their spark during the Piscean season. the season of Pisces. Now that we're in the season of the water bearer, which represents the overwhelming pouring out of information. That's what the internet is.
Yeah.
How could we be doing this if it wasn't the age of information?
Right.
I never met you before in my life. I've talked to people in the UK, in Australia, in Saudi, right? Just like I'm talking to you.
Yeah.
Because we're in the age of Aquarius, the water bearer. Water means truth. Water means morality. Water means emotions. Look at all of the emotions being poured out. And they're fighting in the Senate and in the Congress right now. They're physically going to blows as of yesterday, based on people's opinions about stuff, their disagreements with stuff. It's looking like ancient Rome up in here in DC. You see what I'm saying? So yeah. So those people who support one political opinion or another, they're at each other's throats.
Yeah.
Because the season of what's the word for it?
Pisces.
Yeah, it's Pisces, but it's the season of opposites.
Oh.
Because it's going out, it's making a last-ditch effort to live, like anything that's going out. Somebody drowning in the middle of the ocean, they're going to be making a last-ditch. If you go around them to call yourself trying to save them, they're going to pull you in. They don't mean to, but they want to live. Everything living wants to continue living.
Oh, man.
Even the devil. He's at the part of the plan where he's about to go out. He's being taken out by Allah.
Yeah.
But he's going to do his best to hold on to life, even if he has to sacrifice your life in order to do it. And that's what you see in the world right now, my friend. He'll sacrifice your family. He'll have you shooting strange fluids into your vein. That he tells you is just an experiment. He can't guarantee you nothing. But, if he makes you scared enough to believe that if you don't do this, you're going to die, and you all know what I'm talking about, then you're under the fear principle, another influence, another spirit. This is how spirits rule.
The pendulum is swinging, though, just like everything has to balance out at some point. So it's swinging back the other way.
That's right.
And that's a natural process.
That's right. That's what you're seeing. But the key is to not to be caught on the side of nature, but to be caught on the side of nurture. Because the things that are being nurtured are going to live. The things that are being caught on the side of nature, where everything is just being allowed. How do we have this high rise in deaths from fentanyl? You mean to tell me with all of this internet information, people don't know that fentanyl will kill you by just touching it? It'll kill you just from touching it. All of these millions, thousands of people are dying from fentanyl because something else is being manipulated above their heads.
Yeah.
And there are people above that who want you to die. That's what we're not understanding. Because we're SUFI in our nature, we're soft, we're compassionate, we're merciful. We think the whole world is like that. Because they want to give you a welfare check or bonus check at the job. We think everybody is soft and compassionate and wants you to be comfortable. No. They're looking at the whole world and they're saying, boy, we have an over amount of people on earth right now. They call them useless eaters. That's what some Jewish minds call them in the word goyim, G-O-Y-I-M, goyim. That's Yiddish for useless eaters. They're calling them cattle. They're saying, well, the cattle are eating up all of our feed, and now it's our time to go kill them and eat the meat. What did they think we were feeding them for? And so now that since you've been feeding them and the cows know you've been feeding them, they see you bringing out the grain and all of the rest of that stuff. When you come at them with the hatchet, they might not understand the hatchet, but they interpret you as friend. And they, to the last minute, they think you're there to help them and sustain them and continue to feed them until the block hits them in the head or the knife hits them in the neck. So the knife and the block and all of that is where we are right now. Because if we can reduce this population from 7 point whatever billion, I think it is on Earth right now, right?
Yeah.
Down to, maybe 2 to 200 million, or something that's not like 7 billion people that we have to continue to feed and placate. We ain't with that. We don't need that. We have the technology now. We can make a servant now. We can make a robot, and we can make them so that the body of the woman is SUFI, is soft. Boy, they made so much progress in robotics. That woman sitting across from you on your couch, you don't even necessarily have to know that she's not a human anymore. They got clones operating out here. They got robotics operating out here. When you touch her, her hand is warm. So what do they need a wife for?
Right.
So now the women are at risk. We don't need women anymore. We got her. They have sex with these dolls.
Mm-hmm.
And they can do it 200 times a day if they had the stamina, with no complaint. She ain't gonna ask them to go buy no groceries, pay no bills. She ain't gonna ask them to do nothing. He's gonna tell her what to do. She's a robot. She got the bluest of eyes, green eyes, brown eyes, however you want them. Her skin feels like human skin, and her temperature gets warm, just like human temperature. So what do you need humans for? And we can build these things to go out in the field and work and do whatever job we want to do, and we don't have to pay them. Who would you choose if you were an immoral man?
Right.
You own a big old company, you can get these robots to do the work, and you don't have to give them a lunch break. Shoot. You don't have to hear their complaints. Who would you choose if you were an immoral man?
Yeah.
See?
So I want to say, brother, so what I'm hearing is that there's a where we're at right now is the time for nurturing by way of setting boundaries and not allowing just allowing whatever people come up with to go on. As long that's the balance, right? The balance is speaking the truth and bringing back the truth of what's really happening to people, right?
Spot on.
Okay.
Exactly right. The Quran says, "O you who have faith, save yourselves and your families from the fire, whose fuel is men and stones." The Quran never asks us to save humanity. That's not our job. That's his job. But the responsibility conferred upon us as individuals is to at least save yourself when you get better information. And going back to the tribe again, save yourselves and your families, because that's how the world starts. From the fire. Racism is a fire. Chauvinism is a fire. Materialism is a fire. Socialism is a fire. Those are the fires that will eat you up, burn you down to ash, so that they can start all over again with a whole new people and a whole new system. That's what you see happening with the ethnic cleansing over in Palestine. It's the fire eating them up so that the people who rule that area can begin again. I'm going to say this as a last point on this subject.
Okay.
Most people don't know that beneath the ground in Gaza, they have discovered wealth amounting into the trillions of dollars. You understand? So people say, how can they be so cruel and just exterminate a whole people? Because they have to get rid of the people in order to get the wealth. This is not new. The same exact strategy is being used in Lahaina, in Hawaii, a story that we've already wiped from our memory. Are we forgetting that there's still close to 1,000 children unaccounted for during that fire? Save yourselves from the fire. That fire in Hawaii? But most of us don't know that there's untold wealth beneath the grounds of Lahaina. So it doesn't matter if they do a scorched earth process. They don't want what's on top of the earth. They want to rebuild all of that. They need for that to go down. Why not do it in one fell swoop? Just burn the whole town down. Because beneath the town, is what we're after. So we immediately send in our contractors, our government contractors, to begin digging, build. We can build a new city. What we want is beneath the city. Now, you haven't heard about that yet, but you will. And if you know where to go, you can research it as we speak from credible sources, not from conspiracy.com sources.
We talk about oil and gold and
Yes.
natural resources.
Lithium, same thing beneath the ground in Afghanistan. All of this, wherever you see us go, it's because there's wealth there. They went to Africa because there was wealth there, called the slave. They don't go places on vacation. They go places because they know there's wealth there for them to extract or bring back or create.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's going to be surprising to a lot of people, but I'm telling you, it's the same strategy, and the same one that's controlling the purse strings over in Hawaii are controlling the purse strings over in so-called Israel. And they want you to blame the common Israeli because they get caught up in the emotion of it, the homeland and all of that. But the average Israeli is not even religious. You're not practicing Judaism.
Right.
The Zionists and those people, they don't practice religion. But we're over here saying, oh, those are the people of the Bible. They're the people of the Torah. Those are the children of God. They don't see themselves as the children. They don't even, they could care two shakes of a monkey's butt about religion and God. Many of them are atheists. They're called the Zionists.
I had a quick question.
The few, let me just say, the few of them who are claiming religion as religious Jews are being persecuted by the Zionists in that land. Go ahead, Len.
You know, sometimes I wonder, nations like Saudi Arabia and places like that, constantly being tested with war, natural disasters, you know, and I wonder sometimes, you know, what is it? I mean, these people are worshipers of Allah, and they just seem
Say
to
that
always.
say that very lightly, though.
I can't hear you. Say that again.
No, I said say that very lightly when you say that they are worshipers of Allah.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Well,
How can you be? How can you be worshipers of an idea that says that your creator wants to qualify you for righteousness? And one of the major qualifications is that you be a person who gives charity, who helps those who are helpless. Saudi is a $1 trillion enterprise, sitting not that far away from what's been going on in Palestine for 75 years already. Where was the help coming from Saudi then? They might stand up and say, we're not going to stand for this now, but where were you 75 years ago when this whole mess started? You see what I'm saying? So obviously there's some material enterprise that they're protecting over and above their commitment to religion or to the worship of Allah, as you called it. Women are just, I don't even know if they've been given the right to drive yet. They're talking about it. She can't even drive. That's how backwards they are. But because they control these major purse strings that people around the world are raising their eyebrows over, and they don't want to get on the bad side of those people because their check might stop coming. Saudi Arabia is financing many movements and efforts around this globe. Multiple efforts are being financed by Qatar, Abu Dhabi. These are wealthy nations that are supposedly Muslim nations. But many of them are getting whipped right now, at least weather-wise. So who's controlling the weather?
Yeah.
Now people might say, well, man controls the weather. Yeah. But remember, Allah allows. So even if it is weather modification, weather manipulation, who's allowing it to wipe out certain people? Because evil people are not the only people in positions of leadership. You have some, a minority as it might be, good people, righteous people who have plenty of wealth also. And if you read the Bible and the Quran correctly, you're going to see there's always a small cadre of people who question the immoral practices of those in positions of leadership. And they say, why are we doing this to these people? Why are we going in and fighting and bombing and killing and raping and pillaging these people and raping their women and all of that? And we're supposed to be the children of God. We're supposed to be the only begotten sons of God. Then why are we acting like this? See, they don't like when you ask questions like that to the leadership. Then they make moves to get rid of you.
Mhm.
But these stories are in the Quran and in the Bible. Right in the middle of going to war against Pharaoh, the people of Pharaoh, some people in his army asked that question. They said, are we just trying to get rid of these people because they say they believe in a creator? I thought that was our position. But see, the Quran is subtly telling you that's not their position. If that was their position, how could they, with good conscience, bomb and kill and murder and rape and torture other people who say they believe in the same God? Ain't no two different gods. They try to make it seem as though it is. Oh, that Allah, he's a foreign God. They know from their study that the Arabic name Allah, the Christians in Saudi Arabia call God Allah. It's just an Arabic word for God, the creator.
I need to, can I please right there? Because this has been coming up for me this entire conversation, and you saying good, because this is a perfect intro into what I'm about to ask you. So well, so I've been online as I do my research, and of course I come across different things. So I'm the type that I can kind of, I told you I'm all about this you know, I don't know if you call it clairsentience or whatever, but I feel it when it's coming, right? And so there's one thing that I keep hearing across the board, and when I hear it, it feels like there's some truth to it, right? I just want to hear what your take is on this.
Go right ahead.
And then so several teachers say that the prophets in the Bible were actually teaching the message of the Quran, or teaching the message of the Quran, or teaching Islam. Actually, that's what they were teaching, and it was just you know, recorded in the Bible and wasn't given its proper respect.
Yeah. Yeah, but don't make the mistake of thinking that Islam is a religion per se, like just a different ideology.
Okay.
Every prophet taught al-fitrah, the fitrah. Our religion is al-fitrah, deen al-fitrah. Deen, they translate as religion. It's the religion of the natural processes we were discussing. Fitrah, how nature presents herself so that the intellect can benefit from all of that knowledge that the world and your study of the world is ready to give you, like a mother is ready to feed her child. That's what the fitrah is. It's a feminine word because nature is feeding you just like your mother fed you. You got it? Yeah. So that's what the Quran is. It's a collection of the best essence of the fitrah. So it's not really a religion. That's another made-up word. Could mean rely on, religion, that which you rely on, you know, that kind of thing. But it really means to put the ligaments back together. Realignment. That's what it is. Ligament, religion. But if you have to put ligaments back together, it means they were torn apart. So that can't be what the Quran calls al-fitrah, because you can't tear apart al-fitrah. Allah says, make no assault on the fitrah. You're not allowed to make any assault on the fitrah. Doesn't mean they won't try.
Yeah.
But it means that they won't be successful at the end of their, you know, actions. So this was here from the beginning. Before humans were here, this was here. You understand? So whatever the people got that they eventually called the Judaism, whatever the people got that they eventually called Christianity, whatever they got that they eventually called the Buddhism and Hinduism and Zoroastrianism, those names, those isms were not on those ideas when they first got them. They were sent prophets and messengers just like everybody else, and they were given one message, and that message is in the Quran as al-Islam, not even Islam. Al-Islam, the Islam, definitive article, the definitive submission. If they translate Islam as submission, that's even incorrect. But for lack of a better explanation right now, Moses taught al-Islam, but he didn't have to come to them and say your religion is al-Islam. It wasn't given a proper name until the Quran came. It was all just the definitive way of submitting your little will to the overall and overriding will of the source creator. That's all any of them taught. Look through the Bible. Tell me if you find somebody saying that Jesus taught Christianity or Moses taught Judaism. It's not in there. The only book that details for you what the name of the system is the Quran. And Allah speaks of it as being completed and perfected. That means you don't need to add nothing to it. So why should I follow hadiths too that came 200 and 300 years after the Quran was revealed? That means you're telling me that the Quran is not pure and perfect. He did not perfect it and complete it. If I need these other guys and what they think about it and how they interpret it, if I need all of those guys, then Allah lied in the Quran when he said that it was completed, that it was perfected. You understand?
Yeah.
And I know that Allah doesn't lie. So if Allah's not lying, it must be the other party that's not telling you the whole truth and nothing but the truth. Are they good hadiths? Sure, there's plenty of good hadiths, but there's good stuff your grandma told you too, right? I hold on to what my grandma said. She didn't have to tell me she was a special person with God for me to believe what she told me about my behavior and how to treat people when I go out in the public. My grandma didn't have to be all of that and call herself, you know, a prophet grandma, you know, for the people to accept her. So no, why do I have to accept all of these humans that came after Muhammad, who was the final prophet? They came after Muhammad and they started saying, well, this is what Muhammad meant. Well, come on, I thought the Quran told you what Muhammad meant. Well, we need further clarification. From you? Okay, why not from you? And then as the generations proceed, there's going to be smarter people born into the world because knowledge is always evolving. So why can't we have some modern day people that give us more and more hadiths from their modern brain? No, these special people in history, they have the lock on it. Really? And where are these people from? All of these people are from Persia. None of the people who established hadith are from Arabia proper. All of them, to a man, are from ancient Persia, modern day Iran, influenced heavily by Zoroastrian ideology. And they were the ones who worshiped fire. Oh, you who have accepted faith, save yourselves and your families from the fire, whose fuel is men and stone. And that's an incorrect translation. So if you don't know what the fire is, you don't have the proper tools to battle this false ideology that's in the world. I say just put the brakes on the hadith thing. You know, have them love. I got hadiths I love. I still teach. I still teach on them. But I know better than to say that the prophet said it and I can't prove it. They can't prove it. How are you going to prove word of mouth over a 300-year period? You can't prove word of mouth in a classroom circle of children who one whispers in the ear of another one. You know this thing. They say, give him a sentence, and you in the ear of the child next to him, and he goes to the child next to him. He's supposed to be saying exactly the same thing, but in a circle of 10 people, by the time the last one gets the message, it's already incorrect. And they are in real time with each other. Can you imagine stretching that hearsay out over 550 years?
Yeah.
No matter how good the people's hearts are, it ain't gonna work. It ain't gonna be correct. The Quran is not time stamped. to 1400 years ago. The Quran is universal and forever. That's why when you need an answer to anything, like you're asking, what is Sufi? What is this? What is that? I don't have to go to Hadith to explain that to you. I don't have to go to the Bible to explain it to you. I go straight to the pages of the Quran and say, yes, there is a Sufi concept, conceptually speaking, but it's to be balanced out with your attention paid to the material world and its resources, access to it, the development of the human intellect. Where's that in all of this? Is it just be a good person while the bad people take over the world? No, it's be a good person to the best of your ability. Do all of those things that account for righteousness, called el-bir, B-I-R-R-A-L-B-I-R-R, el-bir. You can look that up online. And it outlines what you're supposed to be doing as a righteous person. And the first line there, listen, it says, righteousness is not in turning your faces east or west. Now that's the end of every Muslim ritual prayer, isn't it? Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. And Allah tells you right there in the second surah, second chapter, 177th verse, he begins the verse by saying, righteousness is not in looking that way to, or getting up and, are we facing the Qibla, brother? Are we facing east? Are we facing northeast in this masjid? Allah's not concerned with your northeast versus southeast versus your whatever, you know, whatever that was that, who was that wrote Northeast by Southeast? Hitchcock. Alfred Hitchcock had a movie by that name. Northeast by Northwest or something like that. That's not what righteousness is. Righteousness is in believing in Allah, believing in his prophets, believing in this and that. And he goes down a list of about 6 or 7 beliefs. Then he gets into the nuts and bolts of what you should be doing actively. In the Quran, there's no such thing as going to paradise based on what you believed, based on what you professed as faith. Everything in the Quran that points to Jannah or paradise is based on actions done by you. So I don't care how many rituals you've done. I don't care how many turning to the east and to the west and all of that you've done. That does not account for that which will contribute to your account towards paradise. Paradise requires what is called el-amal, the actions, the activities that you do, not just faith. Faith is aman, alladina amanu, those who have faith, wa, and amilu salihat, amal, actions that reconcile. You can't just be sitting in the bleachers looking at what's going on in the world and you don't make any contribution. At least we're making the contribution we can make from our living rooms and bedrooms. We're at least speaking out against it. We can't do anything about most of it, but can we at least tell people what the truth is? That's an action. That's what gives you paradise in this world and in the next world. So I want to be at rest. I want to be suf in this world. I want to be on the soft side. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah, I want my lamb right there next to me. I can just pet it. And when I need to, if it gets too cold, then I can shear it. I can make me a nice, you know, jacket or something.
Yeah.
Sheep will regrow the wool. I ain't worried about that.
Yeah.
I don't even have to sacrifice it. I don't even have to kill it. I just have to shear it. And you know, in the Quran, there's a word called the wali, and you can hear the same consonants in the word wool, right? Yeah. Wool and wali. And a wali is supposed to be the best kind of friend that you could ever want. Why? Because they're carrying that Sufi nature. They are protecting you and they are qualified. There's another word for friend in the Quran that represents people who want to protect you as a friend, but they're not qualified. You walk into a field of martial artists and they're trying to take your stuff, and your best friend is there with you, but he don't know, he can't even box. Like Lenny's a professional, I call him a professional boxer. Yeah, he put the beat down on me several times in his building staircase. You know, he just tried to teach me how to box.
Yeah, I can see that.
You understand? But
yeah.
I take Lenny, he'd be my wali.
Mm.
But there's another word for friend, Rafiq, and other words for friend, that they want to in their hearts, but they're not qualified. So when the black belt and the green belt and even the yellow belt comes out, I'm done. I'm dipped. Because even though I got a guy here that loves me and would give his life for me, when it came to putting up the dukes, as we say, they be there like the old time boxers, trying to deal with the martial artists, and they get whipped. But a wali knows the deal. He knows what moves to make. He knows what things to say to get these people off of them. So that's all a part of the Sufi, the softness. You're not just supposed to be soft. You're supposed to know how to handle yourself when the time demands. So the Quran says, come into al-Islam wholeheartedly. It doesn't say come in as a Sufi. It doesn't say come in as a Sunni Muslim or a Shia Muslim. None of these names are in the Quran for what a Muslim is. Every time Allah mentions Muslim, on the most part, it's just Muslim. He doesn't have to qualify it. So if you're going to be a Muslim, be a Muslim. What kind of Muslim was Muhammad the Prophet? Did he say he was a Sunni? You understand? Did he say he was a Shia or Ahmadi? He didn't claim any of these titles. They weren't even in existence.
Yeah.
But follow the principle of softness. Any other questions?
No, that's it for today. I know
I'm just getting started.
I know you are. And I'm grateful, man. Like that was great. Thank you.
All right.
And
Yeah,
I wanted to say, like, whether it be offline or whether you do a webinar one day,
Well,
I'd love to hear like your journey to Islam, or your call to it too. I think that would be a really powerful thing to share, for me to hear anyway. So.
Yeah, well, I have some things that I can let loose maybe in the next day or so. I was going over a lot of my old lectures, and I heard some stuff in there where I was kind of detailing my journey. So it's an audio, and I'll gladly email that to you.
That'd be great. That'd be great.
Give me about a day or two for that, because I have to process it and edit it and that kind of thing. But I'd surely do that for sure.
Perfect.
Hey, Ben, would you want me to share any of the Nunetics information if he's interested?
Yeah, he sent me did you send me your email address?
Oh yeah, you have. Oh yeah, you need.
Yeah, so I'll send it to him. I'll send him my YouTube page. You can go to YouTube and just Google Instructor Benjamin Bilal.
Yes.
And then make sure that you subscribe.
Yeah, that's better.
So everything I do from that point, you'll have access to it. And feel free to join our weekly class. I have a weekly class called the University Online Learning Course.
Okay.
We meet in real time every Sunday at 7 p.m. And it is making major progress, not only in this country, but it's starting to get into overseas pockets of communities of people. And they are loving it. They have never heard anything like this before in their Muslim lives. And some of them are not even Muslims. I have people in the United States, they're Christians, but they don't think about Christianity like they used to.
Yeah.
They were already free thinkers when they came my way. But I mean, they are like, some of them are online with our own one-on-one interviews of these people, mostly females. Yeah, they are hitting it out of the park.
A lot of females are coming in. Wow.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Listen, we have people as young as 17 and as old as 85, and they show up every week. And if I teach for 6 straight hours, barely one of them will drop off.
It's
now,
time.
Talking about attention span, you know what they say about our attention span now, right? We don't have the attention span of a goldfish. That's what they're saying.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you have to exclude the people who listen to us, because if I do 1 hour, some of them, when I went down to doing 1 hour, they started complaining. Why so short?
Yeah.
But if I've done 8 straight. I have gotten them online at 6 o'clock in the evening and got off at 2 in the morning with not one complaint and with not one person falling off, dropping off, saying I'll get the replay. I'm too tired. No, they all. I'm looking at the numbers. They don't change. Why? It has nothing to do with me personally. It has to do with the frequency that we spoke about at the beginning of the class.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Man means mind. Words make people. Not Instructor Bilal makes people. Words, frequencies, frequency modulation is what makes the mind do what it does. So pay attention to the frequencies. All right, folks?
Got it.
All right. Yeah. Man, that was good, man. I appreciate
Well, thank you for the invitation, my brother
it.
and cousin and friend
No
and
doubt.
Wally, my Wally right over there.
Yo, love you, brother, man. Y'all, oh man. So we'll be in touch, Naji. We'll be in touch.
Okay, sounds
All
great.
right.
Yeah.
You heard me?
One of my
Yeah,
daughters is named Naja, so I can give you a full breakdown of your name next time we get together.
Oh man, I love that, man.
Yeah.
Man.
That verse I quoted to you, "Oh, you who have faith, save yourselves and your families."
Yes.
That word from Naja and from Naji, the root for that, those letters, NJ, NJH actually, are in that verse, to save. But we'll go into that if you remind me.
That makes sense. Yes.
Okay, I figured it would.
All right.
Little dab
Yeah.
do you?
That's all it takes.
All right. All right. Have a productive day.
Right, peace. All right, y'all too.
You'll see
this.
this. You'll see this in about an hour or so on YouTube, hopefully.
Okay.
If with your permission, actually. I
Oh.
always ask the person's permission.
Yeah, I'm open to it. So
Okay.
Yeah, sure.
And if we ever get together like this and it's recorded and there's anything you might say that you don't want on YouTube, I'll edit it out. Just tell me what it is.
Okay.
Okay. I'll in the future, if you know you said something, oh man, I wish I didn't say that. Then you tell me what you said. I'll go back and look for it and I'll edit that out.
Okay.
All right.
All right.
That's fair enough, right?
That's fair. Yeah, I appreciate that.
All right. So listen, man, go to that YouTube site, smash the like button.
Yep.
Make comments and subscribe. Then when you're finished with that, you go out. I'm going to send you all this information to my website, newneticsinstitute.org. I have 19 books there that you can purchase.
Okay.
You can join the class. You can pay for your semester through that portal also. Each semester is 3 months long.
Okay.
And we're into the 23rd semester at 24th, 23rd, 24th. I think we're into the 24th semester. That should tell you something. People have been doing this for years.
Yeah.
So join the club because it's about to disappear from YouTube. So if you want to keep up with where we're going, and where we're going is a fantastic journey, brother, then it'll tell you at the website how much it is and all that. You can do partial payments, whatever. It ain't the money issue. It's the commitment. And most of the time people pay for something is when they actually really commit to doing it.
That's true.
All right. So take a look at it. Then it can give you further information on it. And we'll meet in the middle very soon, inshallah. God willing. All right.
Assalamu alaikum, man.
All right. Alaikum salam to you both.
Okay.
Thanks for sharing this time with me.
Yeah, thank you, brother. Thank you.
No problem. Anytime.
All right.